But here's the thing that I've discovered with family. There's an extra level of two-way loyalty that enables maybe a deeper level of trust and
Right.
commitment on all sides. And therefore, there's a much higher chance of success in achieving that smooth succession that is non-disrupting for our clients, which is what I think all of us are going for.
Hi, I'm Chris Reynolds, and I'm on a mission to help independent financial advisors build a better business through a remarkable client experience. In this podcast, you're going to learn how to do that from my conversations with the visionaries, the leaders, the independent advisors who are reshaping the future of the financial advice industry. At the end of each episode, you're going to walk away with an actionable idea that you can take and use right now, and it will help you to build a better business today. This is Turning the Page. Every day, I speak with advisors who are considering bringing their kids or relatives into the business. And why not? It's a noble profession. It helps people. It deals with a very interesting topic that is ever changing. You know, who wouldn't want to be in this business? It provides both financial and time freedom. And the people who are bringing these kids and relatives in, they're looking ahead to their longer succession plans and see them as that possibility. But is it really that simple? There's probably, like everything, a lot more to it. So today we're going to talk about succession planning. And succession planning is a journey. And I think it's going to be a really great show because we have three members of the family coming into the business. Well, first we have Sonia LeRoy. She's the senior advisor. Sonia's been on a podcast before, very popular one, by the way. We have Rowan, who's Sonia's daughter, coming in. And we have Adrian, who is Sonia's nephew, coming in. So we have generations coming into this business. And this is really the future of our business. Like if you had to look forward 10 years, it's going to be Adrian and Rowan who's going to be really building that next challenge, looking after that next bunch of clients, to get to know them. Sonia, as I said, no stranger to the show, senior wealth management. She has a really unique approach, really strong emphasis on her philosophy around responsible investing. In fact, that was the topic of our podcast that we had previously. Really been in the business for 30 years and has a very interesting story. So I'll let her tell that. Adrian, once again, came in the business. Actually, it was longer than I thought. It seems like we've known each other for a long time, but 2014. And very, very accomplished. In the short time he's also been recognized as one of the top advisors under the age of 40 throughout Canada. So congratulations. By the way, Sonia has a whole mess of awards. You'll have to go back to the other podcast because it's just too lengthy. I don't have, we'll go up the whole show of all the awards that she's won. And now the next generation, we have Rowan coming into the business, who started working with Sonia, really liked the business, now is an aspiring financial advisor. And she does a lot of work with Sonia's expertise, which is in this responsible investment. So she does the learning material, sets it up for the clients, and probably a whole lot more, which we'll learn about. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us, Chris.
Thanks. It's really cool to be here.
All right. I'm looking forward to it. So let's start with you, Sonia. Sonia, as I said, not first time on the show. Thanks for coming back. But last time you shared a really inspiring story, which I'd like you to continue on, where your passion for finance came from. It came from your grandmother. So talk about generational. Your grandmother was a broker. So maybe talk a little bit about that and how she inspired you.
Yeah, she was a stockbroker. So my grandmother, Lilith LeRoy, she was a very limited, very special category of person who did not respect limitations or barriers, never paused for challenges.
I love it.
That's my overriding sense of who my grandmother was. She is a legend in our family. She understood the power of money to change lives. I spoke about last time her gifting shares to her grandchildren, including me and her great-grandchild, that's Adrian, instead of presents. She taught me an appreciation of the importance of investing and also about the responsibility that comes along with having money. She brought me to shareholders meetings, taught me that as an owner of a company, I have a voice. She also was a big believer in giving back and the importance of family connectedness. She and my grandpa established a tree farm in the Haliburton Highlands as a place for family to spend time together and appreciate the land. And she And my dad and my uncles planted Christmas trees, made maple syrup from the sugar bush there. And then she made them give it all away, the money they earned, selling the trees to charity.
I love it.
All of her descendants, we still gather there, where we still make maple syrup to this day. The tree farm has become a giant forest. We don't do Christmas trees anymore. But as a financial planner, she assured this continuity would be possible by creating a corporation, a shareholders agreement, with the purpose of encouraging. Her vision was to encourage all family members to be able to keep returning to that place, to spend time together for generations to come. So she's been my inspiration, not just in this business, in my life, in giving back. It's always felt natural to me for people in my family and to people in my family to share what we have, our money, our time, our skills. And I know that drive to give back extends to my children as well. Volunteering and philanthropy are strong core values for all of us. I feel my grandmother's influence throughout my life and probably most strongly in my career. But she, even then, set the example that when you have a vision, a clear vision, an important vision, you need a plan and you need to do the work to put that plan in place and make it happen.
I tell you, even from the last show, your grandmother is my inspiration as well, and it's your grandmother. So, and for those who go on LinkedIn, actually, there's some pictures of the farm and of your grandmother with the pipe. I loved it. It was fantastic. So she's my inspiration as well. But maybe actually I can extend that over, Adrian. So you've got some gifts from your grandmother. You have a great aunt who certainly is inspiring. Maybe talk a little bit about your story and how you got interested in this business.
Yes, I can say that I've definitely been inspired by the family members in my business, and of course by Sonia in so many different ways. Growing up around finance professionals has sparked my interest in understanding how the economy works and how financial advisors can help individuals and families achieve their financial goals. So my interest was also fueled by my own situation and wanting to help understand finance for myself and as well help improve others. So seeing how Sonia has helped so many people through her work as an advisor was truly inspiring to me, and it made me want to pursue a career in this field as well.
Yeah, I love it. You always need sort of that person looked up to, that mentor, and you guys are lucky to have it. So I'm going to go to you, Rowan. Yeah, your mom, grandmother. Oh my God, you've had quite the role models in your life. Maybe talk about what got you interested and how you got here.
Oh my goodness. No, the women in my family have absolutely made a financial feminist out of me.
I love it. I could use that term, by the way. I like that, financial feminist.
Yeah. It's actually pretty interesting. Like, women have been financial planners in their families for thousands of years, for generations and generations, in ways that we typically don't recognize, and women don't have the power to control liquid assets traditionally and historically. Right. We pass down jewelry in different cultures. We pass down china in different cultures. And Lilith was pretty explicit about that's not just going to be it for our family. But I'm going off on a tangent. The question was sort of about how I ended up here. And I think a little less directly than maybe Adrian or my mom explicitly deciding they were going to be a financial planner. I sort of tried everything else first. I went into undergrad with a goal that was I wanted to do something to contribute to combating modern day slavery. And that sort of came from our family.
Inspirational.
Thank you. Our family's involvement in Maison de la Gare. And so that's how I sort of focused my research. And it led me to Uganda. My mom literally flew to East Africa to drop me off in Kampala, Uganda to work.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. So she's really been that I'll go above and beyond to see you through what you want to do. And I thought that would be a direct way to combating that, but I really missed Canada. And I didn't think nonprofits were exactly where I would be able to affect the most change. Right. So I came back, I tried working for the government, had an incredible team, incredible mentors, was very lucky in that position with Treasury Board. But I think I always wanted to do something more entrepreneurial. And then about this time last year, I was in Ecuador completing the last course, writing my final research for my undergrad. And I got to dive into the real impacts of socially responsible investing in Ecuador on biodiversity protection, indigenous livelihoods, and through my mom's connection was able to interview heads of ESG at NEI and other companies. And it was such an incredible experience. So I kind of had to be very explicit and intentional with my mom. It's like, I want into this business. I want to help align
tell
people.
her, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, back when I was working for her, just casually helping with Adrian's IROC transition in 2019, I think, who was it, Mom, in the office? You said Rowan's going to end up working for you and you didn't believe them.
It was Ron Harvey. That was his
Ah,
prediction.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. I just had
And I
to
said,
be very...
Rowan, are you kidding? No, she's going to go and change the world. She's going to be in Africa or in South America. And look, here she is.
But I really think this is how you change the world. Like, I think having conversations with people one-on-one about how you can align your money with your values is one of the most empowering things you can do. And it's sort of bringing together my research. I feel like particularly focusing on that S in ESG is one of the most effective ways to combat modern day slavery. And so I'm very excited to be here.
That is an amazing story. Thank you, Rowan. And it is so true. Like you've heard me say, I think that certainly the business that we're in is a noble profession. We help individuals, but Sonia, Rowan, Adrian, you guys are taking it to another level of helping people also be responsible for their money, to make actual social changes in the world, which gives it a whole other dimension that probably a lot of people hadn't thought about when they were looking at this as a career. So I think that's pretty eye-opening, Rowan. I think it's pretty inspiring as well, that there's probably a lot of young people looking to and asking themselves how they can change the world. And this is one of the aspects, by choosing this type of career where you can guide people in making the right decisions. Mm-hmm. So as it comes to that, then it's a challenging business, but certainly you're in it for the right reasons. So when did the conversation about succession planning start? And maybe I'll start with Sonia, and maybe you can how it sort of started for you, and then I can get the other perspectives.
It did not start out explicitly as a succession plan. When Adrian and Rowan were both actually little kids, I would take them along with me to fun industry events, like a ski day celebrating the end of the RSP contribution deadline. That always was a super busy time of year in our industry, especially in the early years. So they both probably felt it was pretty normal to hang around with advisors who seemed to have interesting lives, the same way I felt it was normal at the cottage when my granny would pull out the graphoscope and talk about stocks over breakfast. And so they had that early exposure, right, to sort of feeling a little bit oriented in the industry, seeing the good parts of life, getting familiar with other advisors. Then when Adrian chose in university to major in economics, my thoughts naturally turned to imagining him in this industry too. Right. Now, he was a tier 1 NCAA soccer star at the time, and there was likely to be a professional soccer career in his future before financial advice, but I'm aware that life is a long game. Yep. So I invited Adrian to work with me during his summers and whenever he had time while not playing soccer. And I think the seed was planted.
Yeah, Sonia was very good at slowly planting those seeds.
See how fun this is? See how fun this is?
Look at all these events. Yeah.
And then Adrian did join the industry, starting out on his own with Freedom 55, actually. It was then, that was after a soccer career in professional soccer, we started to have explicit conversations about joining forces and eventual succession. Adrian joined our office as an advisor with clients of his own, and he received a small wage from me for helping him to also support my practice. Right. And when I converted my license from MFDA to IROC, then Adrian really stepped up, took over responsibilities for those client accounts that were not a good fit at the time to switch over to IRAC.
Right.
Although that first transfer of clients to Adrian was not sold, in effect given, we did put in place at that time a written understanding and our first crack at a succession plan.
Good.
So we were explicit about our longer term vision, even though this was just the first step toward it. And that early plan included our vision for the long-term future that we still have today.
Love it.
Really interesting. So that vision included Adrian and I working side by side in preparation for him to eventually succeed me,
Take over. Yep.
while becoming familiar with my practice, my way of giving advice, while at the same time continuing his own learning path and growing his own practice independently. And that vision explicitly even reached longer term to make room for a generation behind Adrian to follow him in a similar manner. So we were thinking big and long, even in those early days. We did not know at that time who that might be, but imagined it could be one or more of my kids or someone else in the family who might become interested in financial advice. And hey, look, here's Rowan.
And look what happened. And now we have you all on the show at one time. So, and I think your story is unique because, what's the stat? I think 86% of advisors don't actually have a written or certain thought through succession plan. And you've not only thought about one generation, you thought about almost, two generations here. So I think that's amazing. And I think that would be an excellent topic. So Rowan, now you're the next generation. How did this, you talked a little bit about how you got interested in it, but what's your sort of take on, let's say, both, the longer term succession plan, but what do you think are the big obstacles that young people face when they come into this business? I think that would be interesting from your perspective.
It's really interesting. Right now, I'm in I'm doing a graduate certificate in financial planning at Seneca College. I just finished my first semester. And one thing I wasn't really expecting is how geared the courses are towards getting a job as a salaried financial planner at a Big Five bank.
Yeah, I guess they're the employers, right? Yeah.
They are. And so that's really how the conversations go in class and how it feels like the content is geared. But then you stay after class and you chat with your professors. They all own their own books of business. They,
right. They're not doing that. Yeah.
They're not doing that, but they recognize how impossible it feels for anyone new to the industry to start the same way they did decades ago. So also at career fairs, it's interesting. Sometimes you'll see independent advisors there with their team being explicit, like, I'm offering an internship to find somebody for my succession plan.
Right.
This is the opportunity. What do you bring to the table? I'm looking to mentor someone through this whole process and bring them into my succession plan where they'll ultimately own their own book of business one day. But unless you find an in for yourself like that, I don't think it's possible really to start successfully the same way, my mom did.
Well, it is incredibly challenging because it is a different time. Most people, certainly when I was an advisor, the thing was finding people who didn't have an advisor. There was so many people that didn't have advisors. It was a new industry and it was continuing. Now everyone has an advisor. It's how are you a better advisor, or what is your connection? What is your relationship? So I think to your point, Rowan, it's a good point. You need sort of that in. Now, luckily, as you know, our industry is an aging industry in the financial, just on the independent side, by the way, I use is about a $900 billion space in the Canadian marketplace. Half of those assets are held by advisors over the age of 60. So, for both you, Rowan, and Adrian, there's a huge opportunity to continue, not just with Sonia, but I'm sure that there are other people in your region who are going to be looking for good advisors to take over the business, because to take over your business, you want somebody who will look after those clients the way that you would look after clients. And I think Sonia is very lucky, has both of you that really share her same philosophy. Adrian, what do you see and what have you seen? You've been on a little longer. What do you see in some of the obstacles that you've sort of run across as coming into the business and future succession planning? Any tips you can give for the people who are listening?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a next generation advisor, as we would call it, do you mean this as in terms of a succession planning, like what sort of obstacles I've found in
Yeah, both
relation
the
to that?
succession planning part and just,
Yeah,
just in general as a young person coming into the business, fresh out of, university in your particular case,
right.
it was probably an eye-opening experience from what you thought to what actually happened.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I definitely discovered that running a viable practice has significant obstacles for new advisors. One of them, there's no hiding the fact that the baseline cost of becoming an advisor is expensive with the fees that are required and and things of that nature. But I think through the process, especially through succession planning, I've learned that it's important to be patient and also have the guidance of the senior advisor and also be able to draw from their expertise in helping you through the process. And so of course, when you're a younger advisor as well, age plays a factor in
Right.
certain sense with clients. And so becoming knowledgeable and being able to reach those higher net worth clients where they're saying, I have stocks that I've held longer than your age, sort
Then
of
you've been
thing. So
alive.
than you've been alive, yeah.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
that definitely is an obstacle entering the business, is just being and how I myself and Rowan, I think how we've doubled down in that is just being able to really take in as much knowledge as we can, enhancing our certifications, our education. It is a passion of ours, especially on the
Yep.
responsible investment side. So becoming knowledgeable and also just gaining that experience through time. Those clients will soon see how dedicated and committed you are, and eventually will want to work with you. So I found that slightly as a barrier or obstacle. Yeah, there's no hiding the fact that as younger advisors, there's not many of us, especially when we go to conferences. There's a pretty small group of financial advisors there. So there is quite a gap in age between the next generation and the more veteran advisors, but we're hoping to bridge that gap in a sense and work more closely with the senior advisors. And then that's the last thing that I'll just touch on
Yeah.
is, of course, I'm a minority, African American, so that I don't consider that as a barrier for myself, but it is something that's apparent. There are many Black advisors in the financial services industry, so that's another
Right.
thing that's something that is to be overcome. But I think it's been a really good experience so far.
Yeah, no, true. That next generation, we're much more diverse, much more open, much more, looking at it from a different viewpoint. And we see it, as in the firm, our average age is dropping. The number of female advisors continues to rise year after year. African American, like the whole diversity now is starting to match Canada, I'm going to say, as a whole. And that's
Yep.
very different, by the way, from the industry of where it was 25 years ago, as Sonia can probably attest to. Now,
Yeah.
Sonia, 25 years ago, she was only 10, but,
Yeah, that's right.
vaguely remembers it.
Yeah. I've also been
So,
around long enough that I've sort of developed my own thoughts about what the obstacles might be, for that
yeah,
next generation. And also in trying to put in place a succession plan for myself as a senior advisor, some lessons learned along the way in terms of along the course of doing that. And
yeah, that's what I was
interesting.
just going to ask you, Sonia, is you're now the sort of mastermind putting this together, and there's a whole bunch of advisors listening to this show that want to know what you know. So what have you seen as some of the things? And then to your point, how have you overcame them?
Well, I remember how tough it was to first get established as an advisor, back when I was 10.
Right.
But remember, Adrian and Rowan come from the same place I do. You heard Adrian say, being a young Black man wasn't a barrier for me, but I know, yeah, he's got the same great grandmother that I had as a grandmother.
Right.
So tough doesn't mean tough. It's just a consideration.
Right.
But since then, our industry has become more complex. It's become more expensive to practice, and the barriers really have only increased, even
Right.
if we don't feel them as barriers. I do not know how a young person today could even begin to launch a career the way I did without the support of a base income or buying a book of business. So, as the senior advisor wanting to introduce a younger generation to my practice with a view to having them stick around for the long term, for continuity for my clients, I have to consider these things,
Hmm.
which is why I gave rather than sold Adrian that first round of accounts to be responsible for, and why I felt I had to pay him a wage as he became more established. And those expenses and requirements, I think, have only grown since then. Now we're working out what it might look like for Rowan as she integrates
Right.
into
Comes
our
through.
team as a planner. Now, I had a few false starts with other junior advisors before Adrian and I started working together so closely, with our clear succession plan in place. Being an advisor is really good work, and it really helps people. And if you do it well, it looks easy
Like everything.
and
Yeah.
life is good.
Yeah.
But every good advisor also knows that looking easy is not, in fact, easy. So the
Right.
problem I encountered with junior advisors was that as we worked together, they would soon want what I had, and my training and time and money ended up basically, launching them into an independent path of their own, which was great for them. But then my succession plan was right back where it started.
Right. Started over again. Yeah.
So for me, what I discovered is with family, I think it's different.
Right.
And I think this is why there are so many family teams in this industry that are so successful. Maybe it could also be different with a non-family member, as long as that clear vision was in place and a clear plan of action bought into by all parties, in support of that vision.
Right.
But with family, we would want them to succeed no matter what, whether that was in my practice or otherwise. So the investment would always be worth it anyway. But here's the thing that I've discovered with family: there's an extra level of two-way loyalty that enables maybe a deeper level of trust and commitment on all sides. And therefore, there's a much higher chance of success in achieving that smooth succession that is non-disrupting for our clients, which is what I think all of us are going for.
Absolutely. Actually,
Mhm.
it's an excellent point. And again, this has been a good topic because you do, as I said, I talk to advisors all day long, and as frequently as my last call was talking about bringing his daughters into the business. But then, the challenges of they're also starting a family, and how are they going to buy the practice, and where are they going to get the money from, and all of these factors are things that people think about. But I think you hit upon something. Family, there's that layer of trust that you probably don't get as bringing somebody that is outside into that business, because you fundamentally want that person to succeed no matter what. And that investment will pay off, I think, to your point, regardless. The only other aspect, and I'll comment on it, maybe I'll also ask Rowan and Adrian, because I've also talked to the kids taking over the practice. I'm like, your mom or your dad has a pretty good lifestyle right now, right? And everyone nods their head. They're like, yeah, get to travel, get freedom, get to do this. I'm like, yeah, but you know what? I remember in the one case, I remember your dad working 12 hours a day. I remember the Sundays that they had to put on. So are you investing for the paycheck or for the passion? It's a lot of hard work to get to the position that sometimes they see their parents in. First, I'm going to ask you, Sonia, but then I want to go to Adrian and Rowan just to sort of get their comments on that. Is it, sometimes it looks fun, and then you actually got to do it, and it's a whole lot more work than I ever believed. And I'm saying that because of a lot of our listeners are looking to buy practices and moving into their parents' businesses. So, Sonia, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a very good point. As I mentioned before, it's not easy, even though, if you're good, you make it look easy. And, since the very early days of my career as a financial advisor, I felt so lucky to be in this career, even when we were eating Kraft dinner and spaghetti every night. And,
Right.
I was working those 12-hour days, and there were a lot of those days. In fact, there were a lot of those years. Even before it became financially rewarding as it is today, though,
Mhm.
I always felt honored to be trusted with people's money and grateful to be able to make such a positive difference in people's lives, all while having the flexibility to control my own destiny, the way I work, the way I deliver advice, my own ongoing learning. Like, not a lot of people have that. Not a lot of industries offer that opportunity. And naturally, when you have such a great thing, even when it's hard, you appreciate it and you want
Right.
to share it with people you care about. I think Rowan and Adrian saw all those aspects too, not just the
Also
easy, but
good.
they
So they saw the
felt
hard
the
part
benefits.
and the good
Mhm.
part.
Yeah,
Rowan, what's your you've seen it all, right? You saw mom probably eat
no,
bologna sandwiches. So
I'm not under any illusions. Like, I remember my mom not being around, like, in 2008. Like, she
oh yeah,
behavioral
that would be a
coaching all
great
of her
year not to be
clients. Like,
around. Yeah.
but I'm not under any illusions. If I were here for a check, I wouldn't be here. I'd be gearing up to go work for
Right.
a bank and get that immediate, nice, beautiful salary. But I'm here because I'm not only want to invest with clients and helping them align their money with their values, I'm also investing with my family. But ultimately, I'm investing in myself, in a career
Right.
that I see I can ultimately build towards being able to make a positive impact in other people's lives and be fulfilled myself. And ultimately, like, when I'm older and more established, have the flexibility to be able to continue with other passions, like my
Right.
mom in traveling to Senegal.
Right.
My boss is
Yeah.
going to be more more
A little
amenable
bit
to
more
that.
sympathetic for those long periods of time off. Yes. No, and I think you do have the right attitude. Like, you have the passion. And as I said, I've been in this business a long time and I've dealt with a lot of advisors, and you can tell the people who are really passionate about what they do. So, Adrian, I'll let you have the
Absolutely.
last word on this topic. Again,
Yeah,
you've seen it from sort of, on both sides. So, what do you think if you
absolutely.
had to give young people some advice?
Yeah, a lot of work goes into being an advisor. It's not just sitting around and collecting checks, so to speak. So it is long, grueling hours, sometimes during weekends, sometimes during off-peak times. So for myself and my own experience, I've been able to use sort of my sports and professional background to bring some discipline and mental toughness in creating a business. But I see this as a opportunity, as a challenge and an opportunity to make a positive impact. Sonia has built an incredible, successful business with a strong foundation of values and beliefs that I admire and will continue to uphold. We are, I think, one of the challenges that may be overlooked is upholding something so foundationally strong, right?
Right.
And so, I'm my own person. I have my own different skills and assets, and I see it as a beautiful challenge to build on what Sonia has already established and
Mhm.
enhance our practice all together as a team and a group.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'd love
Go
to
ahead.
build on that, actually. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
when we're thinking about, like, is this a check or a challenge? Not just how many hours you're going to put into it and recognizing that it will be hard work, but also, what are you going to put into it? How are you going to add value in a way that is different for your clients, that other advisors who might have serviced them previously might not have had the capacity or opportunity to. So, for example, I've been able to actually really do some in-depth research into ESG and help the advisors on my team create an SRI strategy that's
Mm.
unique and adds value to our clients. Adrian, I know, like, is differentiating himself and spending a lot of hours becoming more of an insurance expert right
Right.
now. In a way, Sonia just hasn't had the time or capacity to do before. And then I think in order to be successful, that's what you have to think about, is like, how are you adding value?
Yep, absolutely. You know what? The word that comes to mind is creating that legacy. I think Sonia started that legacy with her principles, her foundation, which was certainly inspired by your grandmother, Sonia. And now, Adrian, you get to work with your aunt with those principles, as I said, but coming at it from a different discipline. And, Rowan coming at it with that passion of changing the world. Like, I love it. And so for the listeners of our show, this is what everyone should be thinking about. What is your legacy? How are you going to create that? And is it something that your children share and other relatives can bring in? And I think Sonia also made a really good point about that, that foundation of trust that you have with family, and you want them to succeed. And this is a great business to succeed in. So with that, you guys have been great. This has been a great conversation, actually very eye-opening. But before we go, just one word. If you had to give one piece of advice to our audience, I'll let each one of you give one piece of advice as we round this up. So I'm going to start with Sonia.
Well, I feel like naturally when you have a great thing, you want to share it with people you care about. So introducing family to your succession plan, keep in mind it's a long game, needs to start early, can't take it for granted either. But a strong succession plan is the key to ultimately achieving continuity for our clients. And that's really what advisors want. We want to take care of our clients.
Absolutely.
So it's worth investing in.
Create that legacy. Adrian, one piece of advice.
Mine's pretty easy. Just do whatever you love with passion. And I think that's a good step forward in whatever you want to achieve. And so with what Sonia, Rowan, and myself have done, we're very passionate about our clients, about what we do. And that's really just been the foundation of how we've been able to progress along.
Awesome. Rowan, you get the last word.
Everyone's been so inspirational. I would tell people, go get your RIS, your responsible investment specialist designation. If you don't have it, go get it right now, because assets under management in Canada are doubling every year. It's the way of the future. It's what my generation is excited about, even if it's just as a risk mitigation strategy. I think that's how you future-proof your practice and start learning about it.
I love it. I love that passion. Well, thank you again, everyone, for being on. This has been a great show. And for anyone who is thinking about bringing their children into, or any relatives into their business and want to have a chat with it, I always offer the virtual coffee with Chris. Be more than happy to talk you through that. With that, thank you very much for joining us today, and look forward to the next episode.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Thanks for joining me on Turning the Page. What did you learn from today's episode? If you follow me on LinkedIn, please drop me a comment there. I'd love to chat with you about it over a virtual coffee. Send me a message on LinkedIn, or you can do so at our website. The link's in the show notes. I'm Chris Reynolds, and until next time.